verse 13. You have done a foolish thing, Samuel said. You have not kept the command the Lord your God gave you. If you had, he would have established your kingdom over Israel for all time. Did y'all hear that? This letting you know right now in verse 13. We just in 13. This before obedience is better than sacrifice. The prophet is letting Saul know because he was disobedient. He did not follow the God's command. He did something foolish. He just told him, the kingdom will be stripped from you. Because the covenant was that you will be king over Israel for all time. Uh-oh. Y'all remember Adam and Eve wasn't supposed to die. Y'all remember that? Saul, I'm painting this picture for you because you got to understand. I know we haven't been taught this, but Saul was supposed to be king over Israel. He was the first king, and he was supposed to be king over Israel for what? All time. It never was supposed to be a day. Uh-oh. And no other king after David. It was Saul. Saul was the one chosen. Saul was the one handpicked and selected by God. Same way David was. You got to understand their stories are simple. David was tending to some sheep and Saul was looking for some donkeys. David was being about his daddy business. Saul was being about his daddy business. David was handsome. Saul was handsome. David was young. Saul was young. I gotta understand the lineup. David was overlooked. Saul was overlooked. No one expected David to be. No one expected Saul to be. David was the least one in his family. Saul was the least one in his family. Do you see the parallel? Do anybody see what I see? Do you see what I see? Do you see what I see? So here we are, verse 13. You have done a foolish thing, Samuel said. You have not kept the command the Lord your God gave you. If you had, he would have established your kingdom over Israel for all time. 14. But now your kingdom will not endure. The Lord has sought out a man after his own heart and appointed him ruler over his people because you have not kept the Lord's command. Samuel is telling Saul he's fired. Y'all remember Donald Trump had his show and he said, "You're fired." This is what Samuel telling Saul. You're being replaced. Your service is no longer needed. Let me tell you something about Saul. He was a very prideful and arrogant man because we about to see something. Saul, remember I said, number one, Saul got in his own way. Number five, Saul was in his feelings and he stayed in his feelings. Make sure but number five, make sure y'all put that in parentheses. He stayed, Stayed. He stayed in his feelings. That's very important because again, God is showing us, verse 14. Here comes Samuel saying, but now your kingdom will not endure. The Lord has sought out a man after his own heart and appointed him ruler of his people, because you have not kept the Lord's command. 15. Then Samuel left Gilgal and went up to Gibeah in Benjamin. And Saul counted the men who were with him. They numbered about 600. 3,000 men turned into now 600. My God. Ooh, Jesus, help me get this to your people. The men have scattered. They are scared. He started off with 3,000. Now he on 600 left. 16. Saul and his son Jonathan and the men with them were standing Gibeah and Benjamin, while the Philistines camped at Michmash. 17. Raiding parties went out from the Philistine camp in three detachments. One turned toward Ophrah in the vicinity of Shoal. 18. Another toward Beth Horon, and the third toward the borderland overlooking the valley of Zibium, facing the wilderness. 19. Not a blacksmith could be found in the whole land of Israel, because the Philistines had said, otherwise the Hebrews would make swords or spears. 20. So all Israel went down to the Philistines to have their plow points, mattocks, axes, and sickles sharpened. These are the tools of what they use for farming. They didn't they didn't have a blacksmith in sight to make those swords, and so they had to go to the Philistines to get this done. 21. The price was 2/3 of a shekel for sharpening plow points and mattocks, and a third of a shekel for sharpening forks and axes, and for repointing gold. 22. So God, excuse me. No, that's gold. Excuse me. 22. So on the day of the battle, not a soldier with Saul and Jonathan had a sword or spear in his hand. Only Saul and his son Jonathan had them. So my men these are military men, they don't even have a sword in their hand. I know what sword represent, right? They don't even have a sword in their hand. They got tools in their hand, but not a sword to fight. My God, help me get this to your people. 23. Now a detachment of Philistines had gone out to the pass at Michmash. We going somewhere. Let's go to 1 Samuel 14. And we're gonna go to the Message Bible with 14. We're gonna read it in the Message. Later that day, Jonathan, Saul's son, said to his armor bearer, come on, let's go over to the Philistine garrison patrol on the other side of the pass. But he didn't tell his father. Meanwhile, Saul was taking it easy under the pomegranate tree at the threshing floor on the edge of town at Gibeah. There were about 600 men with him. Ahijah, wearing the priestly ephod, was also there. Ahijah was the son of Ahitub, brother of Ichabod, son of Phinehas, who was the son of Eli, the priest of God at Shiloh. No one there knew that Jonathan had gone off. The pass that Jonathan was planning to cross over to the Philistine garrison was flanked on either side by sharp rock outcroppings. Cliffs named Bozez is the name. The cliff to the north faced Michmash. The cliff to the south faced Gibeah. Verse 6. Jonathan said to his armor bearer, come on now, let's go across to these uncircumcised pagans. Maybe God will work for us. There's no rule that says God can only deliver by using a big army. No one can stop God from saving when he sets his mind to it. 7. His armor bearer said, "Go ahead, do what you think best. I'm with you all the way." Verse 8 through 10. Jonathan said, "Here's what we'll do. We'll cross over the pass and let the men see we're there. If they say halt, don't move until we check you out. We'll stay put and not go up. But if they say come on up, we'll go right up and we'll know God has given them to us. That will be our son." Verse 11. So they did it, the two of them. They stepped into the open where they could be seen by the Philistine garrison. The Philistines shouted out, "Look at that! The Hebrews are crawling out of their holes." Well, then they yelled down to Jonathan and his armor bearer, "Come on up here. We got a thing or two to show you." 13. Jonathan shouted to his armor bearer, "Up, follow me. God has turned them over to Israel." Jonathan scrambled up on all fours, his armor bearer right on his heels. When the Philistines came running up to them, he knocked them flat, his armor bearer right behind, finishing them off, bashing their heads in with stones. Verse 14 through 15. In this first bloody encounter, Jonathan and his armor bearer killed about 20 men. They set off a terrific upheaval in both camp and field. The soldiers in the garrisons and the raiding squad badly shaken up, the ground itself shuddering, panic like you never seen before. Verse 16 through 18. Mind you, these only two men, right? Jonathan and his armor bearer. So verse 16 through 18. Saul's sentries posted back at Gibeah and Benjamin saw the confusion and turmoil raging in the camp. Saul commanded, "Line up and take the roll. See who's here and who's missing." When they called the roll, Jonathan and his armor bearer turned up missing. Verses 18 through 19. Saul ordered Ahijah, "Bring the priestly ephod. Let's see what God has to say here." Ahijah was responsible for the ephod in those days. While Saul was in conversation with the priest, the upheaval in the Philistine camp became greater and louder. Then Saul interrupted Ahijah. "Put the ephod away." Did y'all hear that? The priest was trying to get instructions from God, but because of the distractions and the disruption from the Philistines camp, Saul told Ahijah, "Put the ephod away." Somebody say he doing it again. Verse 20 through 23. Saul immediately called his army together and they went straight to the battle. Did you hear that? So once again, he's not following instructions from the Lord. He's doing what he want to do. He's doing what he think is best for him and his men to do. His son is gone. His son left camp. The Philistines is in the uproar and he not waiting on the Lord. Y'all remember, let me paint this picture. First Samuel chapter 30, David, when his camp was attacked, his wives were taken, the children were taken, camp burnt to the ground. David sent the priest to go get the ephod, and David inquired of the Lord, and David asked the Lord, "Shall I pursue?" Now that don't make any sense, right? Because the Bible said that David was also emotional. But the difference between David and Saul, because in First Samuel chapter 30, David was emotional because the Bible said that when the men discovered, and these all men of war now, when they discovered that their wives and everything was taken, they cried until they had no strength left. They wept till they had no strength left. And so David Also, during that time, his men got so angry with David that they began to turn on David and they was talking about killing David. In all of this, David encouraged himself in the Lord. He didn't allow the disruption, the distractions to keep him from seeking God. I'm painting the picture because again, we still on the lesson. What happened to Saul? So David told the priest, go get me the ephod. David inquired the Lord, Lord, you see what's going on, but tell me, Father, shall I pursue? And he waited on the response. The Lord said, you shall pursue and do what? Recover all. So now we back here in 1 Samuel 14, another king in another dire situation. His son is missing. His son is gone. He don't know what's going on. So he asked the priest, Ahijah, to go get the ephod. Ahijah is inquiring of the Lord. And then he allowed the noise to distract him and he disrupt Ahijah and tell Ahijah to put the ephod away. Now you know Ahijah have to do it because he's the king. What happened to Saul? When did Saul become so arrogant? When did Saul start thinking he knew more than God or better than God? When did Saul become his own God? My God, who is this Holy Spirit? What happened to Saul? So verse 20 through 23, Saul immediately called his army together and they went straight to the battle. Did you hear that? He ain't waiting for God like he didn't wait for Prophet Samuel. He told his priest, put the ephod away. He immediately went to battle, straight to battle. When they got there, they found total confusion. Philistines swinging their swords wildly, killing each other. Hebrews who had earlier defected to the Philistine camp came back. They now wanted to be with Israel under Saul and Jonathan. Not only that, but when all the Israelites who had been hiding out in the backwoods of Ephraim heard that the Philistines were running for their lives, they came out and joined the chase. God saved Israel. What a day. The fighting moved on to Beth Aven. The whole army was behind Saul now, 10,000 strong. So he went from 600 to 10,000 strong. Oh, we gonna keep walking. With the fighting scattering into all the towns throughout the hills of Ephraim. 24. Saul did something really foolish that day. He's still acting foolish. Do y'all hear? Can y'all see what I see? I promise you, I can't make this up. It's in the Bible. He remember, Prophet Samuel told him that the kingdom is stripped from him. He's still acting foolish. He's still doing what he want to do. He still act like there's no consequences for him doing what he want to do. He's still acting foolish. I need somebody put in the chat, don't be foolish. My God. There's a song that I love. It takes a fool to learn that love don't love nobody. I got a remix to that. Y'all like to hear it? Here it go. It takes a fool to learn that God don't exempt nobody. Uh-oh. Don't be foolish. It takes a fool to learn that God has no respect of person. It takes a fool to learn that God do not exempt nobody. That's what that means. My God, who is this poor Holy Spirit? He keep being foolish. He keep acting like a stone cold monkey fool. Now he don't disobey Samuel, disobey what God said, had the nerve to present a burnt offering to God. Samuel told him the consequences of that. Now he don't told the priest, don't worry about asking God for nothing. Put the ephod away. And because they getting victory, they getting some get back. Jonathan and his armor bearer though, went up here to the Philistines, attacked them, and they thinking, okay, God gave us our mojo back. Oh, we in this thing. We in this thing. But here we go. Verse 24. Saul did something really, y'all catch it. In verse 13, it was foolish. That was Samuel told him. This thing you done is foolish. Now we in chapter 14. Saul did something really. Oh, you think it can't get no worse. Oh, let's keep walking. Verse 24. Saul did something really foolish that day. He addressed the army, a curse on the man who eats anything before eating. Before I wreak vengeance on my enemies, none of them ate a thing all day. There goes still that I. Y'all remember? I. He saw, he thought, and he felt. He's still in that. Do y'all hear the pride? Do y'all hear the arrogance in him? So the very foolish thing that Saul did, he said a curse on the man who eats anything before eating it, before I wreak vengeance on my enemies. None of them ate a thing all day. You got military men out here fighting. They need their strength to eat. How foolish. Then you gonna put a curse on your own team? You gonna say if they eat anything, they curse? Okay, let's keep reading verse 25 to 27. There were honeycombs here and there in the fields, but no one so much as put his finger in the honey to taste it. For the soldiers, to a man, feared the curse. But Jonathan, this is the same son that took it upon himself to attack the Philistines, him and his armor bearer. This is the reason why they in a fight now, because of Jonathan. Here we go. This is Saul's son now. I I know y'all didn't quite hear about Jonathan like this, but I'm like father, like son. I know y'all know that Jonathan was David's best friend and he always looked out for David. Y'all don't see the arrogance in Jonathan? Do anybody see what I see? Okay. But Jonathan hadn't heard his father put the army under oath. He stuck the tip of his staff into some honey and ate it. Refreshed, his eyes lit up with renewed vigor. 28. A soldier spoke up. Your father has put the army under solemn oath, saying, a curse on the man who eats anything before evening. No wonder the soldiers are drooping. 29 through 30. Y'all hear that? That the soldiers are losing their strength because they're hungry, right? When Jonathan ate the honey, his strength came back. His vigor came back. So verse 29 through 30, Jonathan said, My father has imperiled the country. Just look how quickly my energy has returned since I ate a little this honey. It would have been a lot better, believe me, if the soldiers had eaten their fill of whatever they took from the enemy. Who knows how much worse we could have whipped them. Do y'all hear that pride and arrogance? Jonathan ain't concerned about that curse. 31 through 32. They killed Philistines that day all the way from Michmash to Ajalon. But the soldiers ended up totally exhausted. Then they started plundering. They grabbed anything in sight, sheep, cattle, calves, and butchered it where they found it. Then they glutted themselves, meat, blood, the work. Oh my God. Oh my God. 33 through 34. Saul was told, do something. The soldiers are sinning against God. They're eating meat with the blood still in it. Saul said, you're biting the hand that feeds you. Roll a big rock over here now. He continued, disperse among the troops and tell them, bring your oxen and sheep to me and butcher them properly here. Then you can feast to your heart's content. Please don't sin against God by eating meat with the blood still in it. And so they did. That night, each soldier, one after another, led his animal there to be butchered. 35. That's the story behind Saul's building an altar to God. It's the first altar to God that he built. Oh, we're going to keep going. You cannot make this up. Somebody said, what happened to Saul? Saul put a curse on his own military men who's fighting on the behalf of Israel, the Philistines. This fool, and I repeat fool, said any man that eat will be cursed. His soldiers are now exhausted because they have no energy. To the point his son, Jonathan, did not hear the curse. He took some honey, ate it. His strength and his vigor came back. So the other soldiers see this, and Jonathan like, what my daddy doing? Man, y'all better eat something. Y'all see my strength came back. Look here. Y'all see how we whipped they behind? Imagine if we had more energy. We could really tear some heads up. They like, say less. They went and grabbed all the sheep, cattle, everything they can find. Start cutting it up and eating it up right then and there. It sounds sick, don't it? But when you hungry, when you're starving, I remember watching this movie. I can't think about. I forgot the name of it. But these people were freezing to death. I think they were in a plane crash and they ended up in some snow. You know what they had to do to survive, right? When somebody died, guess what they had to do? But then when they really start getting hungry and senile and delirious, they start looking like food to each other. These men were delirious. So everything they could slaughter, they slaughtered. And because this was a sin, eating meat with blood on it, that's when someone brought it to Saul's attention. Look what they're doing. They're sinning against God. So Saul built an altar so that they can bring their meat and it properly be butchered so they can eat. But if Saul would have done something so foolish, none of this would have been happening. So this is, my God, it just reminds me how we build these altars based upon our sin. We go to God and we want God to fix it. And we want God to 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 uh to 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 accept our offer. But what is this thing you have done? You remember what God asked Adam? What is this thing you have done? Samuel asking Saul, what is this thing you have done? And Samuel told Saul, because he had done this thing, the kingdom is being stripped from him. And Saul still acting like a stone cold monkey fool. What point did you see Saul being humble? What point did you hear Saul say, forgive me? What point did you hear Saul say, well, Samuel, please tell God don't take the kingdom from me? Saul is still doing what he wants to do. He's still being foolish. And now the Bible says he did something really foolish. What happened to Saul? Saul did not start off like this. Pride happened to Saul. Arrogance happened to Saul. Ego happened to Saul. Saul got in his own way, self, because at one point he forgot he was God made and not self made. Self happened to Saul. You know, growing up back in the day, all right, my mama used to, you smelling your must. I love it when Queen Alicia say, I'm not grown. I'm just grown. Whew, help me. I don't care how high you get, what status you have. As long as you a child of God, it's one thing you need to know. You ain't grown. You just grown. Stay humble. If you don't learn nothing from Saul, stay humble. So here we go. 36. Saul said, let's go after the Philistines tonight. We can spend the night looting and plundering. Did y'all hear that? Y'all see where his mind on? Now he about looting, robbing, taking stuff that don't belong to them, which God clearly told them not to do. You see how he, in his own way, you see how he's totally not listening to God? Like he's doing exactly what he want to do. And this is after now he was told by Prophet Samuel he's being replaced. He literally got fired. It's like Saul going AWOL. So 36 Saul said, I'm sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but this is something. Saul said, let's go after the Philistines tonight. We can spend the night looting and plundering. We won't leave a single live Philistine. Sounds good to us, said the truth. Let's do it. He got some fools with him, okay? He got some fools with him. Ain't nobody said, no, maybe we shouldn't do that, Saul. These fools said, sounds good to us, said the truth. Let's do it. I don't need no followers who ain't leaders on my team. Don't let me die. Tell me the truth. My God. But the priest slowed them down. Thank you. Thank you, Ahadra. The priest slowed them down. Let's find out what God thinks about this. Whew. 37. So Saul prayed to God, shall I go after the Philistines? Will you put them in Israel's hand? God didn't answer him on that occasion. Did y'all hear that? He already did not wait on Samuel. The Bible said he was waiting 7 days for a set time for Samuel to come. Samuel was taking too long. Saul did a burnt offering. Then we turned around. Jonathan, his armor and bear, took they behind over there, messing with the Philistines. They fighting, they get in the war, big disruption. And and Saul realized that his son is no longer in the camp. So he do tell his priest, go get the ephod. And then he hearing all the noise in the disruptor. He tell his priest, put the ephod away, and he goes straight in battle without God. So now he said, let's go loot. Let's go take their stuff. Let's get it. The truth's like, yeah, man. Yeah, come on, let's do it. Let's do it, dog. Come on. And then the priest like, wait a minute, y'all, don't you want to inquire God first? Yeah, you right. Let's ask God. Phew, God ain't open his mouth. Now, question: what do you think Saul did? What foolish thing do you think Saul did? Let's like to hear it. Here you go. Okay, so Saul, we on 37. So Saul prayed to God, "Shall I go after the Philistines? Will you put them in Israel's hand?" God didn't answer him on that occasion. I can hear God now. Oh, now you want to talk. Oh, now you expect me. Oh, now you want my advice. Now you want me to respond to you. God didn't answer him on that occasion. Okay? He didn't answer. So 38 through 39, Saul did say, all army officers step forward. Some sin has been committed this day. We're going to find out what it is and who did it. As God lives, Israel's Savior God, whoever sinned will die, even if it should turn out to be Jonathan, my son.